Hey everyone! Today we are in my kitchen and I am so excited about this video because j'espère que ça va te permettre de cuisiner in English. Pour apprendre des nouveaux mots, c'est important de les utiliser. Et cuisiner, c'est une excellente manière d'utiliser plein de mots. En plus, faire des plats en anglais, ça va te faire découvrir une partie importante des cultures anglophones, comme la nourriture prend souvent une place importante dans la culture. So, let's get started on some cooking verbs. So, first of all, preparation. All right, your first verb is to cut. Cut is couper, or we often use the verb to chop. Chop usually means to cut into small pieces. So here is a cutting board, and here's a knife. This is the kind of knife you would use to chop. So this is to chop, 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 chop. There's also the verb to mince, and mince means very, very small. You chop into very small pieces, like you would often mince garlic, for example. You don't chop garlic, you mince garlic into very small pieces. You can also slice. Slice is another thing you can do with a knife. To slice is to cut in this kind of motion. So, for example, you could slice potatoes for French fries. You can slice thin, like this, thin slices, or you can make thick slices. You can also slice bread, or you can have a slice of bread, une tranche de pain. Your next verb is to peel, and this is what you can use to peel, like a potato, for example, a sweet potato. So I'm peeling the sweet potato. Another verb is to mash. So mashed potatoes, c'est de la purée. To mash is to go like this. And sometimes you need to mash bananas in a cookie recipe. Here's another verb for you, to grate. So this is something you can use to grate. You can grate cheese, grate carrots for a salad, grate potatoes to make rosti. If I have a bowl, I can add in some olive oil, add vinegar. Add is rajouter. You can also mix or blend. Blend is typically something you do in a blender. So the blender blends or mixes what is inside. Another useful verb is to stir, and stir is what you might do with your tea. If you have a cup of tea, you put in some sugar, and then you can stir the sugar in the tea. So this is stirring. You can also whisk with a whisk. There are two other verbs to talk about taking the water out of something. So you can have the verb to strain. You can also squeeze out the juice of something. You can squeeze a lemon, for example, to get lemon juice. Okay, another verb to know is the verb to fill. So to fill is remplir, and sometimes you can have the word filling. So filling, c'est ce qui est à l'intérieur de quelque chose. For example, in a pie, dans une tarte, ce qui remplit la pâte, c'est, on va appeler ça the filling. C'est I don't know what that is in French, sorry. There's also the verb to stuff. So you can make, for example, stuffed mushrooms or stuffed squash, stuffed vegetables. So if you want to make something that is stuffed, you take out the inside and then you stuff it with whatever you want. To stuff is to push in. Stuffed peppers are des poivrons farcis. You might also see the word to fold. Fold, it just means plier. Et dans ce cas, tu vas peut-être voir ce mot pour dire mélanger délicatement, to mix but delicately. You can fold in, when I make bread, I fold in the raisins, for example. And you can also spread. To spread is to do this. You can spread butter, spread jam on your toast, for example. And the last verb, preparation verb, is to pour. So here I'm pouring the water into the bowl. This is pour, to pour. Ne passe pas encore une année sans parler anglais. Chaque année, les gens se fixent des objectifs, mais au fil des mois, ils finissent par les mettre de côté. Faisons différemment cette année. Inscris-toi maintenant gratuitement à la semaine de l'anglais pour découvrir les 4 piliers pour parler anglais avec confiance. En plus, on commencera à les mettre en pratique ensemble. Let's go! Fais de 2025 l'année où tu vas parler anglais. Alright, so you have prepared your food. Now let's get cooking. But first, what is the difference between cooking and baking? So cooking is just in general, cuire, but baking is what happens in the oven. So you don't cook a cake or cook cookies, you bake cookies because you put them in the oven. You bake cakes, you bake cookies, you bake bread. And that's why in English, a boulangerie is called a bakery, because everything in the bakery, you bake cookies, you bake bread. The other thing you can do in the oven is roast. Roast happens in here. You can roast vegetables. Yeah, I love roasted vegetables. You can also grill, and that's what happens on a barbecue, which I don't have. There's also the difference between boil and simmer. So boil, if you get some water and it's boiling, the water has lots of bubbles. But if it simmers, then it's just the bubbles and the water are just going like that. There's also the verb fry, which you can maybe remember with French fries. When you are making burgers or something in a pan, you can flip the burger. To flip, it's to go like that. You might see in a recipe that you need to cover also. So cover. Here I'm covering the pot with a lid. You can also cover with a towel, so that's cover. Another verb to know is rise, and this is important for bread. Bread will rise in the oven or rise from the yeast. Avec la levure, ça va faire ça, ça va lever, rise. And you can remember rise by linking this word to the sunrise. So when the sun rises, it goes up. When bread rises, it goes up. Another good verb is to heat. Heat something is chauffer. You can heat something in the oven, heat it in a pan, heat it in the microwave. And the opposite is to cool. You can cool something. When you take something out of the oven, you can let it cool. You can put it in the fridge to let it cool. And on that point, you might see in a recipe, leave it for 5 minutes, or let it cool, laisse-le refroidir. All right, and now for some finishing touches. The verb sprinkle, for example. So sprinkle is to take something little, and this is sprinkling. Okay, so here are some leftovers I have from lunch. And tomorrow, maybe I will sprinkle on some sesame seeds. You can sprinkle like that or sprinkle like this. Okay, another word is garnish. So if you have something pretty like this, some parsley, you can garnish your meal like that. There's also the word dress. Dress is a fancy word to say garnish. And you can link it to the word dressing, which is the name for sauce for salad. And finally, the last verb, to serve. Here you are. Okay, I'm down here to show you some kitchen vocabulary. First of all, the oven. This is the oven. So you can turn on the oven, turn off the oven, You can also preheat the oven to warm it up while you are getting everything ready. So we've got the oven and this is the stove. You can turn the stove on, low heat, medium heat, medium-high heat, and high heat. This is a pot. This is a pan, and I don't know why, but this is called a saucepan. You might also have machines in your kitchen like a blender or a food processor. A food processor is un robot. There's also the microwave and the fridge. Then there's this, it's kind of a rack for cookie recipes. A recipe, une recette. For cookie recipes, you might see to let the cookies cool on a rack. So that means on enlève les cookies et on les met là-dessus pour refroidir. Mais normalement c'est plus grand que ça, ça c'est pas un vrai rack. Another good word to know is dough. Dough talks about pizza or bread before it's cooked. Be careful with the pronunciation. Dough. So you might have a dough for quiche, for bread, for pizza, or for a pie, une tarte. If it's for cake though, it's called batter, cake batter. By the way, for cakes, you can have frosting on the cakes. Frosting is le glaçage. You can spread the frosting on the cake. You might also see some spices, the word spice. So a spice is une épice. Let's see. So here are some spices for a pie, a pumpkin pie, for example. This is cinnamon and this is cardamom. Just a quick note on quantities. So this is a tablespoon. We use tablespoons in the US. And this is a teaspoon for your tea. You might have a heaping tablespoon. That means it's like that, a heaping tablespoon. Let me show you. So here is a heaping tablespoon, but this is just a normal tablespoon. Pour parler des toutes petites quantités aussi, tu vas peut-être voir des mots comme a dash of salt, just a dash, or a pinch of salt. Also, in American quantities, we have a cup. Ça ne ressemble pas à ça aux États-Unis, mais moi j'utilise ça, c'est à peu près 23 centiliters. I wanted to talk very quickly about the mindset, ton état d'esprit aussi quand tu vas cuisiner en anglais. First of all, don't be stressed, be curious, and be in a mindset of discovery. Take your time and even have a cooking buddy. Tu peux faire avec un copain ou une copine. Ouf! Well, that was a fun video to record. Avant que tu partes, j'ai quelques dernières astuces à te donner. First of all, qu'est-ce que tu fais si tu ne comprends pas un mot dans une recette? Alors, au lieu d'aller traduire ce mot, ce que tu pourrais faire, c'est juste copier-coller et le mettre dans Google Images. Le fait d'associer un mot avec une image, ça va aider ton cerveau à s'en souvenir beaucoup plus que juste lier un mot avec une traduction. Also, est-ce que tu as remarqué comment on dit ce mot? Is it recipe? Tu as entendu? On dit recipe. So, what recipes should you use? Really? It's whatever you want. I suggest using a food blog. Pourquoi aller chercher un food blog? Parce que ça va t'aider aussi à lier des images avec des mots. Parce que souvent dans les food blogs, on voit un défilé de photos de qu'est-ce qui se passe quand on fait ce plat. My favorite site, my favorite food blogger is Minimalist Baker. I'll put a link to her site in the description. And why do I like her? I like her site because you can find both the metric measurement system and the American measurement system. The metric measurement system is what you use in Europe. Centimeters, milliliters, liters, it's what you know. But in the US, we don't use that. We use tablespoons, ounces, cups. So it's different. Et comme il y a ces deux systèmes différents, je sais que ça peut être une raison de ne pas suivre les recettes américaines, ça peut te frustrer. Mais comme sur son site, on peut choisir entre les deux, ça va t'aider. Don't forget to go do the exercises on my blog. With almost every YouTube video, I have a blog post on my website. I'll put that in the description. And with these blog posts, you can practice your English and practice the different concepts and vocabulary words that you learn in my videos. So go check that out. Si tu te dis que tu vas pas du tout t'en souvenir de tous ces mots que je viens d'expliquer dans cette vidéo, c'est normal, c'est pas grave, il faut les utiliser. Va sur mon site, va faire les exercices et va cuisiner in English. Good luck, have fun, and see you soon!